Good morning. Today is January 19th at 7:04 a.m. Sorry, I'm running about 4 minutes late. My computer's kind of downloading stuff and I don't want it to. Good morning, everybody. This is the Laghu and Dog show, and I'm not sure what we're going to discuss today yet, but last show we talked about hypnosis and the process of what it sustains in reality. Try not to say so much. But oh man, I'm sorry, I'm in so much pain today. What do we got here? We're learning that we're learning about top secret agendas. Basically because there's certain etheric frequencies trying to propagate security through the realization that are modulated and authentic. One way to pick up through hypnosis is information or other realities that are not yours. Things can come across as a digital component, or a ghost, or a god, like George Washington. When the Freemasons accepted George Washington, they ended up making him a deity for themselves. So respectively, I can allow that George Washington to inhibit my reality. So through the process of death, through the process of electronics, things like Stargates, apparently, yes, that's a good idea, I guess. I'm not really sure, I've never seen one. But from what I gathered just from sitting right here, I can pick up on people that have been acclimated to proceed into the veil as a relative determination of the future. So someone may have been sacrificed by the Mayans in ancient times to put their concept into their existence as a cognition as a whole. And we can pick up on those aspects. We can pick up on electronic aspects. We can pick up on etheric aspects of elements and momentum, like planets. And some of these prosperities are trying very hard to keep me from becoming determinate or determine the rational existence between me and them. Ultimately, it would respectively give them some authority over me because for whatever reason their brain thinks, but hypnosis really is just a state of perception. It's a state of igniting yourself. It's a state of becoming fluid with your reality. So when you see 11:11 on the clock, or 12:12, or 2:2, or 2:22, or 1:11, that's synchronistic. It's more synchronicity. It's more the external forces getting your attention to try to get you into hypnosis, or to get you in a relative state towards your propaganda of your internal place and the propaganda of the external place. There's always two forms of momentum converging through you at one time. It's the external world and the internal world. And hypnosis gets you to dissolve your internal world and allow you to proceed into the external world and bring it into you sufficiently to support yourself as a job, as a career, as a gift, as a identity or personality or family, or even family structure. Or this light is just ridiculous today. And that light is just too much. Let me see if I can't fix this lighting real quick. Whoa, that's just too much there too. So in the main state of hypnosis, there's a lot of refracting going on from the external imprint due to electronics, due to people that have been labeled or designated to succeed the reality into the awareness. And there's many factors offering things like the world, the United States, and bigger authorities relevance here in this air, in my space. This goes for everybody. This is a common factor. There's always something external imprinting onto your internal world. I'm just loaded with ums today, aren't I? And rationally, sometimes when you get really good, these external forces try to take you apart, so you're not so inhibitable towards others, so you don't break the whole free. And with these videos, I am aware that I am teaching something that keeps governments from adhering to control over propaganda, pretty much. But what we're trying to designate is that there's even a threshold through the governments that they are not aware of due to higher elements that are trying to propagate a force of power to help people, to deny people, to create people, to enable people from becoming their own trainee in their own reality, in their own world. And I truly just want to write these shows to allow you to find your own patterns, to find your own layers, to find your own magnetics, to find your own significant awareness to yourself, first of all. And I can't tell you to search, I can't tell you to regain, I can't tell you to sustain. The idea of hypnosis is simply self-sufficiency. When you are capable of discerning and idealizing and conforming, then you are capable of supplying and supporting your heart, most of all. In hypnosis, there are many networks that are relevant, like your brain network, your heart network, your fluid body network, your etheric form network, which is conscious outside of yourself, that does generally see the concepts before your heart and your mind do. But the idea is to build a bridge and a link between your brain, your heart, your body, and this form out here, so they're all in a single state of awareness. So you're not delegating between boundaries of my heart, my brain, my mind. You want to be a fluid piece of momentum in your form, which is your flesh, your body, your blood. And there's only one way to really do that, and it's practice. You can't go to church and read a Bible. You can't be baptized. You can't just light a candle and think it'll work. The whole understanding of this process is self-sufficiency towards the whole and your family and yourself. You can support yourself in a job. You can support yourself through your conversations, through your romance, through your working. And some would even go so far as to say the minimalist concept designates the relationship of the God reality and the sufficient reality of hypnosis, because when you're determined to understand, you realize that really you create everything you have, and when you create everything you have to sustain it. So when you have a computer, you are the ones working on it. When you have a vehicle, you are the ones working on it. When you have a house, you are the ones building it. You don't rely on anyone. When you have your own food, when you need to eat, you grow your own food. When you take out the septic field, you find a proper place to take it out. And in Avatar, the movie Avatar is an interesting concept, because it's almost like the background of our reality has this fluid feeling to it, like Avatar. So imagine humanity in this fluid state of acceptance while designating their heart to the same concept. we are opening up on a very large level of compassion towards the adherence of reality, towards what it propagates, towards how it regulates our emotional state, our mental state, our depression, our anxiety, our discernment abilities. And ultimately, there could be processes at play that really try to take this apart against us, because there's an orientation that is being followed, and to really dissolve that orientation boundary, it might break some legitimate barriers and bureaucracy, which I choose not to do here. I don't want to draw attention towards in a negative way in any way. I just want to allow you to perceive yourself as the going forward and not your reality through you. You want it around you. You don't want your reality through you. You want it around you. You don't want anything to occupy in here. You just want your energy, your self interface that allows you to move your body. So generally, as you're born kind of in tandem with everything, and it is objective of life to separate the tandem and become sufficient in your own existence and even sustain your own life effort. So we all as humans could have possibly gained our own life effort in our own parameter of time, where we designate our reality as a sufficient supplement towards our heart, really. And what you want to do is you don't want to break all these boundaries of ego and need. Really, you want to be aware of the need and the ego and roll with it. It is not meant to be taken from you. It is part of this. It is part of this. It is part of the social propaganda that we grew up in, watching TV, the news, music, art, books, internet. I mean, I'm still stuck back in 1995, but tablets, phones, headphones, Bluetooth, all that stuff, not being aware of who we are, being sucked into that external environment of the money and the drugs and the women and the men and the cars and the bikes. It processes our synapse relays very quickly and precisionally. And inside, we all have this feeling of precision. So when our external imprint starts imprinting on our reality with like quick, sharp turns, and it's almost like taking the individual and throwing them on a roller coaster and then taking them off and saying, well, now you learn physics. Because that excitement, those drops, those hills, all correlate to the electronic experience that's happening in here and here. I mean, you're really just one big battery that exchanges momentum. You turn momentum into emotion, and emotion is valuable towards the external imprint. When you have a negative emotion, not just the physical reality itself takes a hit, but the external imprint upon you takes a hit. And we're taught in some strange way that the external reality doesn't really exist. And in America kind of facilitates this deeply. It's almost like the God product is at rest in America, letting art range like a crazy woman in power, drugs, and money, But the relativeness in the whole of the Milky Way states that America is the poster child for significant amounts of ability to sustain this kind of momentum. So as we propagate into space and time around our brothers and sisters that are up in space trying to modulate us, we need to sufficiently grab the reality of the heart concept and say, this is okay, my heart is complete, or this is okay, my heart is complete, or I'll sell you this reptilian for a fucking gray, my heart is complete. I won't dislodge the reptilian's process or the gray's process. I can sell a reptilian without dislodging anything within the reptilian or myself. And I think that's why Orange is in office, is to really designate this financial security that humanity is acquiring from the heart momentum to a higher authority out that really is trying not to bond with us. They want to propagate the control mechanisms through the designation of reality to them, which our designation of reality versus an external, internal, a dual state of perception might have a different effect in their reality than ours, and that wouldn't bind very well. We as humans first need to discern ourselves in a compassionate heart momentum, accepting who we are, not dissolving who we are, but accepting who we are and allowing it to be remolded back into the original concept that we were born to be, and then move forward with that. We need to take this relationship and spread it to our family, to our sisters, to our brothers, to our uncles, to our aunts, to our employees, to our peers, to not to the internet, but really you wanna be face to face with someone. The whole exchange happens here and here, whether you feel it or not. I mean, how often have you approached someone and just felt it? We're so in tune with that we seem to not feel it. But the heart states it's okay. It's a complete state. It's a complete relation. We're just in the process of performing the adherence to it. So we're in this will state where our will's being pressed forward to the membrane, and we're being told to adhere to this. We are capable to adhere to that membrane of the forward momentum, the first layer, and just keep jumping your will forward. Don't back off. Don't think about the lie. Don't think about the ignition. Just ignite. Just lie. Just propagate. Just truth. You want to treat the relationship like the truth. Because somehow there is a connection in your heart that allows that facilitation to exist. And when I say that, I mean, whenever you speak the truth, you can speak the truth 20 times over through 100 years, and it will always be the same thing. Truth designates sustainability and sufficiency of that perception in here. You can always say, I read that book, and it said, then, at the time, was now. And you'll always remember the quote, because it's a true quote. You did it in real life, and you found it. So, you want, in that relationship, there is a facilitation of the negative of the absence space that a lot of coherencies that are trying to propagate through us don't quite understand. So what you find is the rational external state always rebounding in a negative state and not completing it. So we as humans can complete that negative action through us. So it's like the boundaries are bounding in and then a negative and then they stop. It's up to us to take our brains and facilitate the conversation to repropagate a boundary that is malleable and sustainable. So as you see the pattern emerge around you where people are like, oh, I don't know, or yeah, I didn't do that, or oh, is that happening, man? Or sure, dude. It's not. Those are states being picked up by your brain that are existing around you, and it is up to you to feel it in here, know it's there, and then walk it. They're not that energy, that capability, that adherence in your existence that's trying to tell you you don't understand is wrong. They don't recognize the components within you and are trying to facilitate their negative space in you. So what you do is, you meet someone and they say, dude, I just went 120 on the expressway on my new Corvette about fucking 15 miles. It was bad. I didn't get pulled over. And then my guy's like, wow. There's a disassociation towards the conversation, so you don't either propagate him to do it again, which is what that negative state will tell you, that negative state will say, well, you don't want him to do that again because he might get hurt, or he might kill somebody, or he might infringe on someone else's life negatively without thinking of his own consequences. But here you pull you pull that in energetically, you pull it into your space, and you're like, oh wow, did you really do 120? Why don't you just pull it in, hold it, build it, and say, damn man, that was complicated. Did you think you can perform anything without hurting anybody? Next time you try, you should be on a racetrack, man. Keep the conversation going. This is one practice we can use every day, because we all have this negotiation within us sometimes where it's just like, dude, I just don't want to continue this conversation. Well, there's always that reason, but it's not your reason. It's not your feeling. Inside your heart is complete, inside your brain is complete, inside your body is complete, and really it does want to complete the conversation. And you leave your heart open with this process, which generally allows things to settle. And when things settle, it becomes interference. And whether it's negotiated or not, it's structure. It's a positive structure that exists that we can work with. It's not like an empty negative space just grabbing particles and throwing them at you because they're fucking there and they don't make sense. Technically, that negative space is abundant in resource and responsibility to create the negative space, and it is up to us to discern what the resource and responsibility towards the negative space through us is creating. And we as a conscious element can view ourselves being a part of that negative space flowing through us and discern it and take it apart. So hypnosis allows us to really blend ourselves in as a conduit, as a perfected tool, as a living mechanism with its will and life and form, and hold that spot and say, well, what is the construction ratio, or what is the degree of construction you have by getting me to dislodge my conversation? And what we find really is that these negotiations try to decreate, decentralize the social order, because the ones that can inhibit confidence in others, you find lodged in a room or a prison or underground, so they don't create a conformity towards the sufficient state. And governments, what I'm saying here is that you're being programmed just as much to allow these sufficient states to exist with your power, and I don't think you realize where that power surge is coming from. I mean, yeah, you stare them in the face every day, apparently, but they're just integrating within us just to create the conformity for themselves. It's up to us as a whole unit to allow society to grab this adherence and throw it back at them as a whole unit. I mean, your civilianship that you facilitate binarily, like through documents and numbers, is all monitored by this power surge. And what I can't confidently say is where this power surge is really coming from, but there is one, and it needs to be bent back at them while propagating a product through it, so we can hold the copyright. And authentically, we have the ability to hold a conscious copyright over our actions, a conscious patent over our actions, and make our money, make our money, basically. Like, if you build a conscious patent and label it in your environment, that is part of your propagation of your reality into other people. And if it's a true patent, it will legitimately pay off. It will pay off. And I don't mean on a 2% interest rate. I mean, you build a patent that people start using the same energetic pattern that you built, and it starts conforming to other realities without being demonstrated but picked up on instinctually through hypnosis. It's always taking place. That finance will find its way back to yourself. It's about handing out your flow. It's about handing out your energy in a way that we have the ability to create a return. And so hypnosis gives us permission to sustain ourselves indefinitely, financially even, but to product ourselves so there's a return. And I think that's one of the best designations that life really offers us, is that yes, we are capable of giving ourselves in a way that creates the return. And first you start off with the society creating the return individually, and then when you get a decent amount all creating your return and seeing it return through charity, through lottery, through work, through raises, through girlfriends, through children, what they desire. It's when you hand your energy out, or your patents, or your copyright, it'll never come back as a karmatic experience, duality of good and bad. It will propagate forward leverage for you. I mean, no matter how you see it, it'll propagate that forward leverage, not just momentum, but leverage for you to give yourself back again. Because ultimately, if it was that authentic and understanding and encouraging towards others, it will want you to propagate more energetically. The threshold of this here trying to push in on you is an emotional state that significantly understands sufficiency of self, and this is trying to regulate this to be as sufficient as this. So the emotional value is a mutual array of discipline where you care for this, it cares for you, you propagate your patterns and energy out. If they come back without this, but this experiences it and helps you leverage you back into more propagating, even unknown and knowing. It's not about sitting in front of a mass of people, but being in a cave and lighting a lighter and saying, this patent exists. And then when you go out of the cave, 3 weeks later, you got 3 people coming up to you within a week, demonstrating a similar process cognitively. Well, that leverage can happen as a ratio of sociology reteaching you through someone else, even to the financial security, to homes, to soil, to land, to transportation, to food, to water, to medicine. And one of the things I've been having problems with is a lot of my stuff has been going out and there's no return. So this return will be happening. I'm monitoring it with the show. My return seems to be being signified dramatically towards the whole environment, and I can't get it to just come back to my personal space, like here, and support me here. It's like literally my flow went out into everything, and it's still going out before it bounces off something and comes back. Or people are grabbing it and sustaining it and holding it and making money themselves, which if you can get your flow to be sustained by someone else and get them to propagate their own copyright, like you don't ever need to know about this stuff. It just is happening, and this force feedback threshold that we experience will bend to someone else's, even on the other side of the fucking galaxy. The thing about conscious endeavors is that if you think of a pen here, that pen exists in any spot of the whole at any time to be recalled. So what we can't prove is that I just got bombed by a fucking poker paper. What we can't prove yet, but we can have the ability to prove, is that these relays are existing. A lot of science say that light is the fastest threshold we've reached, but consciousness has been in front of us the whole time. And when someone has a dice in their hand and they roll a 2, that 2 is showing up immediately on the other side of the galaxy. With these kind of concepts that will be proven, that are proven around us. Basically, this concept has been proven by something watching us. So we're regulating a mind field, a mind boundary right now of proof, because we're speaking about it. Like I said, in the negative space, there is nothing. like the negative space will not imprint a truck because there's no relevance of the truck in the negative space. It takes a cognitive relationship to go into the negative space with a heart and say, this man needs a truck. And then that negative space is filled, and then produces. Illusion is the same way. Illusion, there's no absent space. There's no discoherency. It's all, whenever anybody's having a journey, a dream, shamanic journey, a psilocybin journey, or a schizophrenic journey, everything is relevant to the internal relationship. And when you finally build the exchange that your internal journey can match something else's external journey, is a great understanding for yourself. So it's when the mutual relationship of emotion bonds to an extent where something external wants to work with you, and then your powers build, and then your excellence builds, and then your admission builds, and you don't give yourself to that thing by giving it anything. You give it your emotion, you give it your state of being, you allow it to precede your reality in front of others. And that's Dog. That's the Laghu and Dog show. Dog is an external imprint using my conduit body to regulate vocabulary words and action and high fives. And you hear that? Yeah, I can hear that. And hearing. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I've done for myself, is I've built a mutual exchange with my external reality, holding my internal reality as the facilitator, and I'm exchanging externally and internally fluidly at a decent consistency for a while, which is starting to allow a malleability towards me being sufficient for myself. And granted, I'm not like insufficient, but I wish I had a little more. I'm limited due to disability, and I want out of the disability platform and back into the environment of production and corporation and environment. I don't believe that running off to the mountains with something like what I have is an efficient way to give what I am to who I am, because I want to see myself survive and strive. I want to see myself have a significant other and a relative relationship with children and my boss and my cousins and my parents and my sisters and uncles, you know. So with relationships, you know, you're not just building here and with the other human, you're building with any conscious element. Trees are and plants are very minor with this relationship, and I think plants teach us a little bit about how a non-human aspect has the ability to sense us, and we can sense it. And same thing with animals. And I think that's why we have them, to allow us to be confined and break out in our own type of free will, in our own type of environment, where there is no it element propagating above us or below us, but mutually as a respectful conduit for itself to create the amount of love it needs to survive, to really strive, to initiate, to ignite the greatest amount of momentum it can. You know, and I give myself to that external force often to push forward that ignition, which is what I'm accomplishing here. And so it's not just me, but there's a whole cognitive durability between me and Dog that we share in my body. And Dog allows me to experience hypnosis through him. I experience hypnosis through myself. I have generally built my own life essence and support myself indefinitely. I just can't sustain my health yet, which is a supplement and security measure that this experience offers. In a way, I chose not to heal right away, and drag it out and try to really allow my conscious to mold around the planet, and then allow my conscious to build a medication for my condition. When I started that in 2001, the first day I got sick, I went into the environment without my body and stayed there and propagated through other humans to understand the medication that I just received that's helping me heal to this degree. So if I want to add weight and points to the matter that allow construction, I believe it. But respectively to sciences, it hasn't been proven. But the weight really is in that first triangulation where it's being measured somehow. The first measurement is the most important measurement because it's exact. It really is just exact and perfect, and it's taking into account the sufficiency of itself, being harnessed by the momentum and reality. And that's where you propagate your power. That's where you really discern the ability to have power, is when you can take that first triangulation of science and just run with it with your heart and your mind, and then socialize it so others can have some sort of understanding for themselves and try to create the same experience. Now, in 2001, I went into the consciousness by a near-death experience. Now, what's to say that everybody else has a near-death experience doesn't genuinely put themselves as a whole unit around the world for the whole humanity to experience? You know? And if you do that, your heart, your brain, your body is going to understand it. And I think that's what the aspiration of Jesus tells us, is that everybody's welcome. You know, everybody's welcome. Certain relationships signify that if you go to this arrangement, you'll be crucified. You'll be taken down. Something in the world doesn't want us to know this, because they would have a hard time managing the planet. Like, something I feel is trying to manage the planet, and they're using government bureaucracies all over the world to harness the power for themselves as a product, which is why we have permission to agenda ourselves as a copyright and as a patent for ourselves, because ultimately the infringement is upon us, and we can't deny our reality. The dog effect has to come in, and it can't separate any actualization of action and say you didn't do it. The dog effect takes responsibility for everything. So as we grow, it's not associative to separate ourselves from our reality and take it apart and say, well, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. Because the true effect of dog is the whole aspiration of itself is qualification of self in everything. You know, it does exist, it is existing, and has existed, and everything flows through it. So it is the momentum of everything, and it takes responsibility for everything. And right now, the relationship. Am I breathing? Right now, the relationship is being adhered to, that there is a quality appearing and approaching the planet where it wants out. It doesn't want the separation of the mindset and the heart set anymore. And it's going against the major agenda of control itself, because it has found a dialogue within itself to refrain from actualizing their agenda, which gives humanity permission to copyright themselves and bend it backwards and copyright their shit in our name. So whether we do it or not, you know, it doesn't take a military. It takes every individual. It takes every social conversation. It takes every post. And I've realized as I start adhering and waking up, I don't think I'm breathing. As I started hearing and waking up, more conversations are becoming relevant online. I'm getting more fluid responses. I'm getting more comprehensive responses to my post instead of just being shut down. And granted, that may be due to my comprehension and my ability to comprehend my reality, but people are leaving posts before me that are signifying synchronicities cognitively about discernment. They're willing to ask the questions now. They're willing to look into it now. I mean, and this is just part of the weather that is adhering to the planet and humanity, and even the propaganda against humanity. And it doesn't take humanity to go to war to save themselves. It really doesn't. It takes the dollar. It takes the financial statement. What we have to discern is that galactically there is a trade and barter system. And the propaganda of power chooses to not acknowledge that within us, because I think understanding the galactic trade and barter system would allow us to definitely bend their shit back and copyright it. We could ultimately claim them as a product because the planet drew them in, and they came in to build the process, and now the planet's taking it back and giving it to the heart momentum in exchange, and it's up to us to create it for ourselves. So in this hypnosis video show, there are waves of energy coming from situations that we're going to try to ride. We're going to ride like surfboards, we're going to ride like skateboards, we're going to ride like snowboards, you know. And really, that's the best part about hypnosis, is when you really catch a wave and you tunnel it, man. You just tunnel it, like in the tunnel, you know, straight up precision, spiking the adrenaline. The adrenaline spikes the synapses, your etheric form grabs the synapses, your etheric form's in awe, like this is just incredible, and you're flowing and flowing, man. And that's really where we want to be. We want to bring that extreme hypnosis into ourselves and allow us to feel the precision within us and grab that strength, and not designate it as power back, but a logical component that dialogues the same force without giving us the stress of exerting the force. You know, so there's physics in psychology, and there's physics in momentum, and the propagating state really can't discern these physics, because if it does, we will discern it. So they set up a mass in the first degree of power, and they don't break it, because if they did, we would have the ability to break them back. So they projected their whole range of propagation in that 1% of power, and they don't let us see it. And what hypnosis does is gives us the ability to look into their propagation and build constructively without destroying ourselves or hurting anybody else, in a manner that will patent their form in our heart name for the planet, and even in an individual's name for themselves. Now we only have 15 more minutes left. It's a good show. I'm going to hit the internet again. Fair warning. I'm getting ready to hit the internet again. I got kicked off the internet pretty much about a month ago for propagating stuff like this. And this is what this is about. But it's not about breaking free. It's about knowing you are capable, you are doing capability, and you are becoming capable. I wanted to add it. In that third process, so we have this strength to cognitively take apart our reality and put it back together in the same manner without destroying it. What is that? Did you see that? Seems like something's there. I don't know. But and that's my show for today. I hope it makes sense. I hope I didn't get too out of too loopy, or whatever you want to call it. What I want is for you to be driving down the road a month from now, hear a song, and have it all click. You know, if you're willing to watch the whole hour, things will click later. As I navigate Facebook and Twitter, I often find myself saying things that people pick up on within months, years later. And they come back to me within months and years later and say, holy shit, it makes sense. Like, it all just makes sense. You know, and what I energetically state when I talk to somebody is, I see the background of you, and I'm reaching into your background to pull your brain and your heart into alignment. So when I propagate the knowledge that you hear, It's about me reaching behind you and pulling it through you. Okay? And so my stuff may make sense sometimes, and my stuff may not make sense sometimes, but energetically, the direction that my voice and my words speak are trying to go through you. And what you would say is, please don't go through me, go around me. I don't allow you in my space, but you are a part of my space. I do hear you. You are flowing around me, and myself is allowing it to be pushed through. And when myself allows it to be pushed through, then the cognition and recognition of pattern, alignment, and adjustment become placent and coherent. Here, here, here. Thanks, dog. Thanks. And here, in your voice, in your touch. And it's about pattern adherence. How often can you find these patterns that are similar and let them layer up? When you let them layer up, that's where the magic starts happening. And it's so studied that this is happening to processes all over the galaxy, that there are civilizations that incorporate themselves in such a way that they try to regulate this process so they can manifest their own product to sell, to make money. So this whole concept of good and bad and sin and hell and heaven isn't a true state of hypnosis, but a state of external relevance. No, this religion agenda isn't about who we are here, but who they are here. And when they understand this, they will go inward to their heaven and start working the boundaries behind them, while we conform to our heart and our needs and our ego and our drive and our discernment and our agnostic and our gnosis, not agnostic, agnosis. I am not religious. I am scientific. I will not rely on any religion for information. I don't disagree with religion, but the conduit that religion has created is really just allowing all of us to explore our heart. So religion isn't even an encyclopedia. It's a Moby Dick book. It's a penthouse. It's a Playboy. It's a Extreme Sports magazine. It's a digital article about architects. You know, it's just words, and they're not meant to drive who you are. They're not meant to give you who you are. You're meant to understand your hypnosis platform, your sufficiency, and your security, and support your reality for others and yourself. And if money is what you want, money is what you will find. If food is what you need, food is what you will find. If structure is what you need, structure is what you will find in hypnosis. Everything in hypnosis is supportive, not separative, not conduit to being separated. And what I kind of feel the separation process is trying to dialogue to humanity in a scientific manner is the simple fact of our home embodiment of space, what resides outside the planet, is that the story that I've heard is that there's this pure state. Within that pure state, they create an absence. And when they create an absence, it refracts the domain 3 to 5 times. And as it refracts the domain, those refractions become fluid in names and identity through that negative space. And they are the relations that every sentient life form in that negative space can rely on. So there's a unity against the boundary behind us and the whole existence of the negative space, which is the orphic egg that holds all matter. Because matter can't exist in the pure ratio of whatever it is, dude. I just see it as a pure white light. Just a pure white light, and then there's this negative space in it, and then in that negative space, stars are born, planets are born, and all that good stuff, and then life's born on the planet, and then these inhibit momentum, and these inhibit security, and then that negative space ultimately finds a personality in itself, and comes in and inhibits the personality itself and dialogues the relationship for emotional gain, for significant pops. You know, that whatever's out there wants to pop and dance and ignite itself in anyone's life. And the only reason we don't have this effect is because something is managing us as a product and does not want us to understand this, because it'll break us free from the management effect as a product. And right now that effect is taking place as a whole. The critter, the galactic Orphic egg, has evolved up to 10 times now, and she's becoming her own entity. She's becoming her own cognitive relationship while inhibiting all that. So not only do you have the refraction ratios that allow the single boundary, the mutual boundary to exist in every sentient form throughout the thing, but now the critter is embedding her genetics in every living element along with the original 3. And the original 3 are allowed to create others, but they can only create up to 10. And we're on the 7th one. So we're on the 10th one. This is the 10th one. And so those are kind of the dyadic relationships that people can rely on, is that scientifically there's a refraction that divides the process of separation into 3 to 5 orientations who dialogue the network besides the brain, heart, and mind to give every sentient life form a unity signature that supports the Orphic egg until she's created her sufficient genetic signature to support reality with. And then now you have a family orientation of 10 refractions in the Orphic signature, all dialoguing through our genetic syndrome or experience or complication or admirance. Whether we like it or not, we don't have to. We don't care. We're just trying to live our life, and we're trying to create the best we can, be in love, fill our needs, fill our ego, and drive. You know, I think ultimately humanity has been given permission to experience life that way without the duality of good and bad. We are a complete ratio that does experience all realms of reality in a negative and positive way, because of certain factors that were out of our control, and we're not, humanity's not designated as being an authentic relationship towards the Orphic egg. They're a designer relationship, and they had to be accepted as a product before the Orphic egg could determine whether she wanted them to be part of them or not. But really, the heart experience that humanity is experiencing has bled into the Orphic egg in such a way that she can't let them go. She wants them. She wants humanity. These 3 refractions want humanity, and they offer their assistance to us, and they are always here. No matter what deity you ever believe in, there are the original 3 refractions, and there is the Orphic egg. And if you need to rely on anyone for a while, that's who you can rely on. You know, they're mathematically measurable. It's not like a source element where they're indefinitely infinite. I would say that the possibility of becoming sustainably undestroyable was part of the design and story mode of the 3 refractions building themselves protection, because it's been so detrimentally rough on the Orphic space and time continuum. There's been a lot of negative propaganda. There's been a lot of negative space. It hasn't managed to learn about the negative space conundrum, and now that we're experiencing this, I speak in a way where I want to dissolve that negative space, and I'm not willing to work with it. Maybe later I'll understand why. Maybe later I'll figure out why I need to work with it. But all I really have right now is that negative space is a designation of science due to the Orphic egg being created, which leads to a refraction state of 120 degrees for each relationship. And through that process, they create a sustainment in the family for the whole enterprise, And these are the relationships that are being adhered to when I designate my relationships through the camera. And me and Dog just dance with these guys. So Dog's trying to step down from being such a power and really create himself with these three, and with the Orphic Egg in front of humanity. And now what we as humanity need to do is allow the momentum to precede our reality, allow things to be moved, allow things to be created, allow the fairies to move things without us seeing, things like that. I mean, what Dog is really reaching for is to be able to qualify himself as a caretaker for the children. So when they're sick, he can make them soup. So when they're sick, he can offer them water from thin air. So when they're sick, he can move and give them their medicine. So when they're sick, they can heal and they'll survive. So when it comes time to learn martial arts, Dog can go right here and give you the exact perfect form for your fighting style, which is something I choose to get into for myself. I love martial arts, and I'm very excited that Dog offers me this. I do practice with him, and we are quick. That's the only thing I really know. My reflexes are pretty quick because of my riding, and I still qualify for moderate speed. I mean, I'm turning my survival 40 in a couple days, 6 more days. And being 40 compared to 18, I'm not as quick, but I would like to rebuild that. And Dog has the ability to help me rebuild that. Dog has the ability to help me bring back all my organic statements from my birth effect. And we all have that right. And Dog can really be anything to you. It's just access to the primary state of flow. It's just access. It's mutual access to the primary state of flow, which is being modulated and designed and controlled for the prosperity of money, financial, and product. So the first thing we need to understand is there is a trade and barter system on a galactic level. We are not the only ones here, and we can start bartering our own copyrights and our own patents of our mind and our energy through hypnosis, and even just cards. You're playing cards and you fucking deal a really good hand, like you're playing fucking poker and you got an ace, king, queen, jack, 10. That energy that you use to put that hand there and win the hand, patent it. Create a patent 101. Energetically it'll be sustained, and then you'll be the first to patent that hand. It hasn't been energetically patented yet. And then what'll happen is when you do that, when someone else is trying the same thing, they can use a different array of synapses. They can use a different modulation of frequency, and they can offer themselves their own patent also. Which in the next show, maybe we'll discuss some of the financial relationships of the United States and the currency, because where I found the signature of patenting is really seems to be printed on our money to give us the knowing that we're capable. And that I'll explain on our next show. But in our next show, we'll try to dialogue some finances. We'll get some cash, and we'll look at the pictures, and we'll try to take them apart, and we'll try to get some excitement going on. This is more than just a lesson. This is a game. Keep up, stay up, play up. Love you all. Have a good day. All of this, I'll ask you. I'm